Hey there, I'm Paul Ingalls. I'm a public radio producer, for many years an NPR contributor for news stories and music history stories. Also, over the last 20 years, I've produced, I don't know, maybe 150 hours of music documentaries and music appreciation programs. You can find links to them all to listen online for free at my website, paulingles.com. That's PAULINGLES.com. There's a link below the video to that website, and also a link specifically to a site that'll take you to the 6 hours of programs I've done on Bob Dylan, who's celebrating his 80th birthday this year. 2 hours focused on his initial emergence. In fact, it was called The Emergence of Bob Dylan, covering 1956 to 1966. The second program was a deep dive into Blood on the Tracks, his 1975 masterpiece. There's also an hour that I called Writer's Favorites in there, as several of my music writing colleagues contributed a favorite song and their thoughts on it. The last one is called Bob Dylan, Listen to the Words, kind of a guilty pleasure hour. Some of my favorites among his most literate songs, like Visions of Johanna, Masters of War, Desolation Rose in there, Boots of Spanish Leather, and several more. So I'm about to turn 65 in this year that Bob's turning 80. So I was all of about 6 years old when Dylan's first album came out in 1962. In fact, in the Blood on the Tracks special, I confess straight off to not having been so tuned into Dylan until I reached college myself about 1974. At first, me and my college radio buddies were more likely to be amused at the jabs everyone was taking at Bob's vocal delivery than to be moved by the depth of his lyrics. In fact, there was a particularly funny at the time National Lampoon Radio Hour fake K-Tel record commercial, and you remember those, for a pretend protest singers compilation that a nasally Bob Dylan imitator was hawking. But in college in 74, the age of 19 or so, after I'd had my first real relationship and my first breakup behind me, I heard Blood on the Tracks with Tangled Up in Blue, and If You See Her, Say Hello, Idiot Wind, and Buckets of Rain. All those songs that, as my friend from Rolling Stone magazine, Anthony DeCurtis, put it in the special, finds Bob giving us not a chronicle of events.
It's a chronicle of emotions. It covers just about every stop on the process of the breakup of a long marriage and a long relationship. You know, everything from bitter anger to wistfulness to sadness to hope for the future to a kind of acceptance that at times is pretty much indistinguishable from despair. All of that is in this record.
This is why I try to feature the best music writers in my programs, because that, coming right off the top of Anthony DeCurtis's head, basically, when I interviewed him, just reaches into my soul and stirs me into realizing that, yes, that's it. That's why I can't stop listening to this Bob Dylan music now, nearly 50 years after Blood on the Tracks. Anthony DeCurtis went on to say, toward the end of our track-by-track re-listening of Blood on the Tracks, that by the time you get through it all to the closer, Buckets of Rain, it's really kind of an emotionally exhausting experience we've all been through, but one that had him thinking of Dylan in terms of Shakespeare in the Alley, perhaps, right? Anthony recalled a line from a Shakespeare play, "The rain, it raineth every day." It's from King Lear, in fact, although I had to look it up. And Anthony says to him, Buckets of Rain offers the same idea.
You know, the rain of our emotions, you know, the rain of, you know, things that cast over our life. And there's a kind of acceptance and also a kind of fatalism about the song. And Buckets of Rain is the finale. It's, you know, it's like the little character, you know, would come out and sing a song at the end of, you know, at the end of a Shakespeare play and send you off with a message that in its way is meant to let all of the emotions that you've just experienced somehow sit well with you. And then you take them with you out into the world.
And that's what Blood on the Tracks does. And that's what so many Bob Dylan album experiences do for all of us, I think. In fact, when we play Buckets of Rain in my special, we also slip in the words of songwriter and folk scholar Ross Altman, whom I interviewed for the show too. Just before we hear Dylan sing the last lines of the song, Altman says, in effect, Dylan's coming up with, to him, a solution to the big existential question of, why bother, in essence? What's to learn from going through all the pain that life can dish out? And then Altman quotes the final lines of the songs that says, life is sad, life is a bust, all you can do is do what you must.
And then he finds the answer. Then he finds the answer to that sense of despair that's been on the edge of all these songs. You do what you must do, and you do it well. You do it well. And then, in the next line, he even finds a way out of the isolation from the divorce. And he reaches back out to the love of his life. I'll do it for you, honey baby, can't you tell? That is the answer that too many American songwriters and musicians were never able to find. And Dylan finally found it in 1975, and I think it's pulled a lot of people, including me, out of the depths of some very painful situations.
So I'll invite you to find that radio special. It's called Right on Target, So Direct, Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks. And again, there's a link that'll take you there below the video. Hear for yourself Anthony DeCurtis and Ross Altman and all the other guests that we had for yourself on this and on other shows. Again, you can click and scroll around to find it at my website, paulingles.com, or at the Public Radio Exchange. That's prx.org, prx.org. You can find those links there, and you can find them here in the notes to this video. In all of the many moments from my programs about Bob Dylan, those quotes that I just mentioned to you here really help explain why I care so much to mark this 80-year milestone for Bob, and to thank American Songwriter for inviting me to do so.